This week we have a bonus video on Elizabeth Montgomery. I thought I'd throw up a very short 5-minute video. She was tragic. She died young. She had a pretty miserable life until about the last, I'd say, 10 years of her life. So let's take a really brief look at Elizabeth Montgomery. Let's talk a little bit about Elizabeth Montgomery, the actress that played Samantha in the hit television series of the 1970s, Bewitched. She was gorgeous, she was troubled, and she came from a difficult childhood. Her father, Robert Montgomery, was a famous actor. He was a cold and distant man, and her mother wasn't much better, so she grew up longing for love and attention. She had kind of a daddy complex, but he did recognize her acting talent and let her act in one of his stage productions. And then she got an agent and she branched out from there. She was in a couple of Twilight Zone episodes. The one I can remember in particular was with Charles Bronson. They're both on it looks like a post-apocalyptic Earth or another planet. I don't know. She seems to be foreign, and she never say a word in that Twilight Zone episode. But she did a great job of acting in that, and she was on Alfred Hitchcock Hour, and even Alfred Hitchcock actually considered her for the role of Marnie in his thriller Marnie. He was lacking a blonde bombshell at that time because he couldn't get Princess Grace to do it because she was Princess Grace, and so he was going to ask Elizabeth Montgomery, but I guess she wasn't available to do a Hitchcock film. Okay, so he put Tippi Hedren in there. She got the role of Samantha on the television series, and she enjoyed doing the show. Problem was, she kind of got typecast. This show was a huge success. I think it was the #1 show for a long time. It was a really big success. And of course, we all remember watching it as kids. We all wanted to be Samantha and be able to fix things with a wiggle of our nose and a little bit of magic. And I, for one, could never understand why her husband didn't want her to use her magic and was insisting that they solve problems the mortal way rather than the witch way. Why are you going to marry a witch if you don't want her to be a witch? That was kind of my deal when I was a kid growing up. So when that show ended, she actually moved on to dramatic parts. The one I can think of that was made kind of a splash was she played Lizzie Borden. And interestingly enough, in the television movie about Lizzie Borden, interestingly enough, she was actually related to Lizzie Borden's. They were second cousins, 10th removed or something. So she did a good job in that movie. I think she might have been nominated for an Emmy for that movie because she did a really good job in that. But her personal life, she didn't have the best taste in men because, like I said, she had like this daddy complex. So she was always trying to fulfill some hole in her as far as men went. And she first married for money and prestige. She married a man who was in the social circles, but that marriage lasted less than a year. Then she married Gig Young, the troubled actor, and he's in my book. He was an alcoholic. He was a non-functioning alcoholic. He was abusive, both physically and mentally, to Elizabeth, and yet she stayed with him for 4 awful years. It's a good thing they didn't have kids together because he would go on to marry several more times, and he would end up killing both himself and his last wife in their apartment, of which, by the way, I filmed on one of my videos on my video channel, on my YouTube channel. Elizabeth Montgomery finally found love in her 4th marriage, Robert Foxworth. She had also been married to a man who was named William Asher, and they had 3 children together. So she was the mother of 3, and then she finally found love with this man, Robert Foxworth, and they stayed together until she died. And unfortunately, she died very young. She died from cancer. It was caught too late. She died on May 18th at her home in Beverly Hills, surrounded by her children and Robert Foxworth, and she was only 62 when she died. So that's the sad story of Elizabeth Montgomery.